Alright, so you've seen me do many JDM engine reviews, and I'm just putting them in the car. But I haven't done any long-term JDM engine reviews, mainly because I drive Subarus and they don't even last an oil change. This car right here, though, on the other hand, it's going on 2 years of being swapped, 10,000 miles of just beating the crap out of it. That's rev limiter, taking it to the track, pulling my jet skis, and just kind of neglecting it, to be honest, because this is the first time it's been on the lift in 6 months. And I do this for my daily job, which, if you want to K-swap your car, head over to ASMotorsports, and myself or Andy will put one of these in your car, and you won't have to worry about it, because I'm a very lazy person, and I do not like working on my car. That's why it's here, because it's been 6 months, and I haven't done anything to it besides put oil in it, put gas in it, and just drive it. Today what we're going to do is we need to do a health check. It's been 2 years since we have done anything to this car. And the first thing I'm going to do is pull the spark plugs out and do a leak down test. That's going to tell me, are the valve sealing, are the pistons, the rings, everything still good to go? And just give me an idea if I need to maybe think about replacing this engine, or it's just ready to go for another 2 years of me beating the crap out of it and neglecting it, because that's what I really want to find today. The other thing we're going to do is the oil pan has been leaking. It's not actually dripping on the ground. So again, I probably don't even need to do it. Perfect numbers. All right, so far, all the numbers have been really good. This one's still within range, but I can actually hear air coming out of cylinder number 2, which had a really good leak down. But what we're hearing is, so right now I have a 5% leak down, which is still a very good number. But there's actually air escaping past the cylinder 3 exhaust valve going into cylinder 2, just because cylinder 2 valve is likely open right now. So it's just something to be aware of, like, maybe in another 10-20,000 miles, this exhaust valve might develop some kind of issue. And remember, this is a used engine that came from Japan over on a boat, and it still has only a 5% leak down. That is pretty dang incredible. So last one, excellent. One thing that I forgot I have to do. Cylinder 3 could be an issue with the valve lash. I have literally just chucked this engine into the car and said I was going to check lash, but because I never work on my own stuff, I have never checked valve lash on this car. So we should probably pull the valve cover off, check valve lash, because it could be sticking open slightly. I highly doubt it, but it is one thing that I do need to check on this thing, and one thing you should do on a JDM engine after it's been run a while, because again, they have 50,000-ish miles. You should probably do some kind of maintenance on them. And the verdict is, it's perfect. At least on this cylinder. Leave it to Honda. You just really don't have to do much to them. The valve lash is good, and I never had to do it. Although, on you guys that are our customers that come to ASM, I definitely check your valve lash. So don't take my neglect on my own car as something you're gonna get as a service, because I am very meticulous about customer cars. My car, if it breaks, well, it's on me. So, I might be lazy, but I'm also greedy. And the valve lash is fine, but I want it to be a little bit tighter. Because nobody likes a hot dog in a hallway. We want to have the most power possible on the dyno. I want to put it on the dyno and make more power than I did previously. All right, well, now to pull the pan off. Well, we have it all drained out, and got the O2 sensor swapped out because that was the whole reason I actually put it on the lift, because that was bad, and I actually had to maintain my car. It's a boy. After 10,000 miles of abuse, I usually change the oil. If I'm tracking it, I change the oil every 1,500 miles with street driving. If I'm doing straight track time, like doing big track weekend after weekend, 2 or 3 weekends, I'll change the oil depending on really how much session time I get. Everything looks really good. Like, I've pulled pans out before on some of the track cars, and they're honestly not bad, but this actually looks really, really good. And this is a lot of street driving. So last year I was irresponsible and this car became my daily driver for a little bit. So I was putting on 250 to 400 miles a week with it just because I was running all over. It's a testament to the K24s being really reliable, and the JDM K24s, like, I would still trust this engine to go across the country. And I bet if we took this windage tray off and pulled the rod caps out, it would probably show that there's almost no wear on there. I don't want to do that. That usually makes for an engine failure. If you can leave a OEM engine undisturbed, they last. The OEM manufacturers know what they're doing and they assemble things. So I am not going to take that back off. We'll get this thing resealed, throwing it back on, let it sit overnight, fill it back up, and then we're going to throw it on the dyno and see. Hopefully this car makes as much power or maybe a little bit more after that valve lash. And I'm ready to rip it the next track day, which is next weekend. Okay, we're back. Since we did the health check, the valve lash, etc., I did an autocross, FTD'd in that, and then went to a lapping day, and the car did great all day, minus I forgot to tighten down one little tiny cap that shot off, but that was my fault, not the car's fault. Today, we're gonna let the computer show us that this car is hopefully making the same exact power it did 2 years ago. But let's go over a few things that I forgot to mention when we're doing the health check on why this engine stays together and is so reliable. In the engine bay, honestly, it looks kind of like the original F-Series. It's F-Series intake manifold. That's one reason this thing stays together, is OEM manufacturers spent so much money making these parts, and they are designed to last. Another thing that we notice on these cars is, can't really see it, the original intake manifold bracket is modified to fit on the K-Series. Now, deleting the balance shafts like we talked about, tons of vibration. Think about taking all the wheel weights off of your tire and then driving down the highway at 80 miles an hour. You're gonna feel it. You can feel it at idle in these cars. It rattles things apart. We've actually seen intake manifold bolts come loose. So, what do? This stuff. Treat it like Grandma said.
I put that on everything.
If you're putting a bolt in on your engine and you're like, should I put this stuff on there? The answer is yes. Doesn't make it that much more difficult to take apart, but what it does do is make it so it doesn't fall apart. The other thing that keeps this engine alive is this guy down here. It's a fluid damper. They are a bit expensive, but again, you're taking out an original part that was designed to keep this engine idling, running smoothly, so you have to compensate for that in some way, and that's getting a fluid damper. So many times, especially Subaru people, will bring in a car with a lightweight pulley, and it is only doing bad things to your engine. There's no performance gain whatsoever putting a lightweight pulley in your car. So keep your original or upgrade to a fluid damper. Outside of that, it's just keeping all the original parts. OEM header. The only parts that are aftermarket on this engine are the idler pulley, just because I did a bigger aftermarket throttle body for a little bit more horsepower. Honestly, kind of want to go back to the original because these things like to stick when they slam shut.
but I haven't really had an issue. I messed around with that a bunch to get this to actuate correctly. I actually flipped the internals of it so the B series TPS sensor fits on there nicely, and all the wiring stays away from pulleys because you don't want that to get caught in there. If you can put Nord lock washers on everything, they're these fancy little double walled washers with little teeth on them. Put those in everything as well. So putting Loctite and special washers on the intake manifold and that kind of thing is gonna keep this thing together. 2 years ago, we had this on the dyno. And the dyno graph here, I don't know how well you can see it, but we last made a peak power of 210 and a peak torque number of 277. So if we can come within 5 to 6 horsepower of that after 2 years of absolute abuse, I'm A-okay with that. So let's run it up and see what it does. There it is. It's making 5 more horsepower than it did the last time it was on the dyno. After 10,000 miles of abuse. Like, look at that. 171,000, almost 172,000 miles. And I swapped this thing at 163,000 miles. So you tell me, is K-swapping S2000 worth it? I think so. 2 years of absolute abuse, and it makes the same power as it did prior? I really hope you guys enjoyed that video. I hope it helps in making a decision on K-swapping S2000, or maybe even just swapping anything you're working on. I did a track day, and I actually finally broke the car. And it's not what you think, it's not the engine or anything. I exploded the diff in the most undramatic way possible. I was literally going out for the next session in the pit lane, and the ring and pinion, something cracked in it, which is a normal S2000 thing. If you know these cars, they don't have strong diffs. So it's gonna be in the garage for a little bit. You've probably noticed it's got different bumpers, front and back. I've been trying my hardest to make it into a nice track / street car. And I'm just gonna focus on drifting this year because I got into drifting at the end of last year and I've really been enjoying that. So I'm gonna take some time off with the S2000, make it pretty, and then probably go screw it up some more on some more track days. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on some more crazy adventures. Go out there, build something, do something, live your life. Don't be boring.